Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly fishing video. So as you can see from my attire, we're at the height of British summertime. The sky behind promises plenty of rain, and I believe tomorrow for the match day the wind's going to get up. So I'm really looking forward to the weekend. Without further ado, let's get into it. If you've followed the channel for some time, you'll know that I occasionally represent the Soldier Palmers in the affiliation of major fly fishing clubs. This will be my first foray into the AMFC this year, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with some old friends and maybe making some new ones. So today's all about the practice, and the captain will come and give us our designated areas for the day. Now the idea of the practice is for you and your boat partner for the day to go out, identify areas where there may be good heads of fish, work out the best way of catching the fish, and start to formulate a plan for the match day tomorrow. So what are we looking for from the day? We're looking for the fly lines that we're going to narrow things down to, the retrieves, the fly patterns, the geographical location of the fish, as well as where they are in the water column. Today we're met with ideal conditions for fly fishing. It's overcast. The swallows are already working the water, which would indicate that there's a good hatch going on. But tomorrow the wind is going to get up, and it's going to make things extremely difficult because the plan that you've had will be somewhat negated by the conditions. The fish will very likely not have moved from the area that we've found, and they're more than likely going to take the same fly patterns that we used in practice. Now, the Soldier Palmers are currently sitting at the top of the league, but it could all change tomorrow. Grafham's been fishing in such a way that you can't predict the results. It's as simple as that. You could have a lucky day, you might have an unlucky day, and it just depends. I think as long as we can manage a sort of mid-tier result, if we can come second or third, it would be great. If we can get another win, it would be amazing. But we're doing okay, and what we've got to do is try and keep the ship steady in order to give ourselves the best chance of winning the league this year. Toby and I have been out for about an hour now, and we've come into Valley Creek to start. Our team members have moved further up the bank, so they've started just to the right of the lodge, and they're moving up to Sludge Bay and towards Gaines Cove. Now, we're seeing plenty of surface activity, and as it looks, conditions couldn't really be any better for fly fishing, but we're finding it quite difficult to get any action. We've had one follow to a booby, and we've both in turn tried the dry flies to no avail, but we're not moving at all now. There's hardly any wind, and we're starting to change through methods to see if we can get something to work. We know we're overfished, we've just got to work out how to catch them. Keeping in contact with your team during the practice session is really important. So although me and Toby have not brought any fish to the boat, and our other boat, Charlie and John's, not brought any fish to the boat, but one of our other boats has had some success, and they've now got 5 in the boat, and they've been drifting from the seat out through Seaboy, and they're catching a few fish. They've got a couple of methods and flies working. There's no point in us changing or rushing over there to try and catch them fish. That you've got to trust your teammates that they've found the method and they'll communicate it to you, and then maybe in the afternoon, once we've had a conflab, we'll get a shot at just getting our confidence going, fishing that area on the method. But we're going to go and have a look at the stumps, and we're just making our way there now. Well, Toby and I have been slowly working our way from the stumps up the North Shore, and what we're doing is we're just hitting likely points, and deep water points, a well-known place on Grafham for fish. And as we've come in, there was an anchored boat, but I think they were anchored just too far off the point, and we've come to the inside of him, and we've started to hit a few fish. So we've had 3 to the boat now, numerous follows, lots of takes, and I got smashed up at one point. So I think we're fairly happy with this area. We're now trying to tie down whether it's the depth I'm fishing it. So I'm fishing with a 6-foot slow tip with a straggle booby on the point, and that's what's taking the fish. I've got shrimp patterns up, and it might well be that that is the method, but it's always best to be diligent. So Toby's worked his way from the floater, and I think he's working his way down now. He's talking about going back on the dries, but I'm going to talk him out of that because I think that's a load of old tosh. He needs to get his flies under the water. My takes are coming right at the end of my retrieve. So what? Well, what that means is the flies have had time to sink down. So I reckon I'm fishing between 5 and 6 feet of water. So we're going to crack on, and we're probably going to move along to the next point at Church Bay. That's the morning session over for me and Toby. We're heading into the harbour area. We've had 3 or 4 fish to the boat. We're trying to tie down the method now. So is the colour making a difference, or is the drab patterns making a difference? We've had 3 on colour, and we've had 1, 2, a shrimp type pattern. So I think we've found one area. I think the lads have found another area, and when we have a chin wag when we go back in, hopefully we'll be able to tie down a method. And then what we can do is all go out on similar sort of methods, trying to find other areas where there's fish. The best thing you can do in competition is locate 3 areas where there's a good head of fish. The closer together the areas are, the better it is in competition. So if one area is not fishing, you can quickly bounce to the other area, and vice versa. So it's always good to have teammates around you during the match, because what you want to do on the water is communicate. Things can change very slightly that can make a massive difference on match day. So if you've got a teammate near you who's sussed out what's happening on the day, it always pays to have someone and always talk and communicate on the water. Well, we've had our lunchtime talk. The other 2 boats have done extraordinarily well. They've been on the lee shore, and they're picking up the recent stocked fish. Now, this afternoon, what we intend to do is put 2 boats across to the North Shore just to check out the rest of the points, so we know there's fish on Deepwater Point, and plenty of them. If the other points might well be the same. So we're sending 2 boats over there. Toby and I are going to head down this bank and hopefully pick up a few fish on our way. Well, we've come out after lunch, and Toby and I have drifted up. We kind of missed the bay just to the right of the harbour, and we came past the sailing club, and we kind of started our afternoon session at the seat, drifting out towards E-Boy, and we both had fish drifting out, as the lads did in the morning. So no surprises there, really. We've worked our way up the bank, and we've come right across the mouth of Gaines Cove now. We're in the bottom right-hand corner of the dam. We're seeing the occasional fish moving, but there's been nothing to the boat yet. I've switched over to a slow glass just to try and mix it up a little bit. We're seeing less fish on top. The promised rain's not arrived yet. I'm sure it probably is on its way, but it's stayed dry for us for a good while now, and when the sun's out it's extremely warm. Toby's messed with various different kinds of sink tips. I've had a slow tip on and moved to the slow glass, so we'll see what the rest of the day brings. Well, as we draw near the end of the day, what Toby and I have done this afternoon is confirmed certain areas. We've confirmed some methods, and some alternative methods for that matter. So Toby got the slow glass working really well and started to get quite a few fish, just fishing that little bit deeper, and it's made a difference. Now, before we go into the lodge and call it a day, what we want to do is just check either side of the harbour. So very often you might be fishing at distance from the harbour. The last thing you want in team fishing is to come in late and be disqualified for not being on time. So more often than not, you'll motor back to the harbour just for last knock-ins, and you might get 2 or 3 casts. So it's always worth knowing whether you're in with a chance of some fish on the left or the right-hand side of the lodge. So we're going to check that out now before we go in and call it a day. Well, that's the end of our practice day. It's been very productive. We've got a number of areas sorted out. We've got several different lines that we've got working, and a number of different flies. So at the moment, Grafham's full of food. There's damselfly, there's shrimp in the water, and there's some pin fry, so there's plenty for the fish to eat. Now, it's not been fishing well. It can't be said that leading up to today it's been fishing its head off, because that's just not the case. Last weekend there was a match and the rod average was 0.035, I believe, which is not very good. But today we've had at least a dozen fish in the boat today, and I believe our other 2 boats have done likewise. I'm not sure how the rest of the field's got on. There's obviously a number of different teams out practicing, and guys will be keeping their cards pretty close to their chest, and you get the usual car park. Well, I had 60 today, but if anyone's had 60, I take my hat off to them. It's not been that easy, but it's been a lot easier than it has been. So Toby's just having a go on the dry fly. He'd like to get one on the dry before we go in, so I'll probably still be sitting doing this video tomorrow at breakfast. we'll get in time to get in the boat with our partners. But no, I think there is a possibility that it could happen. We're seeing the odd fish up and taking off the top now. But I'm going to pack up. The rain's just about to start, and I don't want all my gear getting soaked through. Match day. I'm a great believer in preparation. If you prepare and service your equipment, it will not let you down when you most need it. A couple of key points. Have extra leaders made up and ready to deploy if required. I had leaders with 3 droppers made up for the match day due to the clarity of the water. I opted for ASO 8.2 pound as it is strong and supple. I wanted my flies as far away from each other as possible. Know the where and what the rest of your team is going to do, where they are going to start and what methods they are starting with. This might well change fairly quickly depending on conditions, but it is always worth knowing to start with.
Looks like you're having a giant wee.
I checked the boat draw and was drawn initially on the engine with local man David Spall from Grafham Water Fly Fishers. I say initially as the rules state that you should swap ends every 2 hours. This seldom happens though, and a compromise between the 2 anglers is usually made. I decided to start at Hedge End with the intention of bouncing the points on the north shore. The wind was to get up though, which would make fishing uncomfortable. Due to the wind speed, I decided to start with a slow glass line to compensate for the speed the boat would be drifting. I decided to start fairly close in, and it was rewarded almost immediately with a fish. The next 3 drifts produced similar results. Off to a flyer. Despite having action nearly every drift, I was losing fish and missing takes. David was keen for a move to the south side of the dam. Our team had caught fish there and I was content to move. Needless to say, fishing in this area was much more enjoyable. David communicated with his teammate Chris Bobby, who was doing rather well on a fast glass, with colour on the cast. Not one to waste up-to-date information, I changed to my fast glass. What was to follow could not be made up. They say there is a lot of luck in fishing. I'm not so sure that is correct, but on this occasion I had my fair share, both good and bad. Let's keep positive. David indicated that the fish were in the weed. I have to say, I was a little sceptical, but to my surprise as we pulled into the weed and stopped, as I went to cast, a fish took my fly from the surface. Lucky or what? What went on after that was unbelievable. As I stripped back my line, my cast was hit by 3 fish at once. I lost them all as they destroyed the leader. This happened again almost immediately after I had just re-rigged. I went to 2 flies and upped the tippet to £10 tip. This stopped me getting broken, but failed to help me retain fish once hooked. David was having similar issues, and for every 3 fish he hooked, he got 1. My ratio was much worse, sadly. I lost count of the amount of fish which I had hooked and played, and then lost. The fish seemed to go off after a while, and we decided to move up towards the seat, where we saw several anglers on their hands. It had obviously fished well throughout the day. Again in this area, David and I both lost a fish each, and I managed another fish to finish up my day on 9. David, who also should have finished, ended up with 7. Our team performance was a little lacking, and we only managed 6th place. Very disappointing after an excellent practice as a team.
You got it, mate. That's funny.
As a team, we failed to identify the fish hard in over the weed,
Well done, mate.
as well as our slow retrieve approach was the wrong one. Hindsight is a great thing though, and we need to pick ourselves up for the next round. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.